When I got promoted, I invited my family to celebrate. Nobody showed. A week later, my mom Venmo requested $2,400 for my dad's retirement party. I sent 1 penny and cut them off. One day later, the cops were pounding on my door. All right, Reddit, this story is absolutely insane, and I still can't believe it went down like this. It's going to be long, so grab your popcorn and enjoy the show. Late August, I, 33, female, finally got the promotion I'd been grinding for. Senior Director of Operations. Massive pay bump, actual decision-making power, corner office with windows that don't look directly into another building, the whole package. I was feeling like I'd finally made it. The promotion announcement happened in this all-hands meeting with the CEO, shaking my hand in front of 200 employees. People I barely knew were congratulating me afterward. Free lunch, my face on the company newsletter, the whole 9 yards. I texted my family immediately with some generic big news message. Nobody called back. Whatever. They're probably busy, right? They were not busy. My boss, Peter, pulled me aside after the announcement. Evelyn, you earned this. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty about success. And so, I wanted to celebrate properly, not some corporate happy hour where everyone pretends to be excited while scrolling Instagram. Something real with the people who supposedly mattered. Booked this solid Italian place downtown called Marino's. They had a private dining room in the back, perfect for about 15 people. Put down a $400 deposit, ordered appetizers and decent non-alcoholic drinks. Sent out invites 2 weeks ahead to Mom, Dad, my older sister Victoria, my younger brother Chris, plus my mentor Paul, some work buddies, and 3 college friends I still kept in touch with. The invite was crystal clear about what this was and when it was happening. Everybody read the messages. I saw the read receipts. Mom even replied with celebration emojis. Victoria sent something weirdly sincere about being proud. Chris gave a thumbs up. Dad never responded, but that was normal for him. The man treated text messages like they were written in ancient hieroglyphics. The week leading up, I was genuinely excited. Even practiced a toast in my car like an absolute dork. That's how good I was feeling about life. Day of the celebration, I showed up at 6:30 to make sure everything was set up right. The private room looked great. The table was decorated. Sparkling cider was chilling. The manager, Marco, kept congratulating me. Super nice guy who had no idea he was about to witness something pathetic. 7:12 p.m. Nobody. I texted the group chat with some upbeat message about being there whenever they arrived. Read receipts everywhere. 0 replies. By 8:12 p.m., I'm nursing sparkling water while Marco brings breadsticks. 8:30. My work buddies bail via text. College friends just ghost completely. Paul calls, and his wife's actually in the hospital, which is the only legitimate excuse I got all night. 9:10 p.m. rolls around, and I'm eating calamari alone, while Marco suggests maybe they got the date wrong. We both know that's nonsense. This young waitress looked at me with such genuine pity, I almost lost it right there, like I was a stray dog in the rain or something. 9:30. I tell him to cancel the main courses and pay for what I ordered. Left him a $100 tip because the secondhand embarrassment he felt for me was real. He actually tried to refuse it. No, senora, I cannot take this. You sat with me for 20 minutes when you should have been running your restaurant. That's worth $100. Drove home in complete silence with my phone just sitting there on the passenger seat. No calls, no texts, no sorry we couldn't make it, nothing at all. Just me and my thoughts, which is a dangerous combination at the best of times. That night, I lay in bed thinking about every possible explanation. Emergency, miscommunication, or maybe I just wasn't worth showing up for. That last thought stuck like gum on a shoe. The next few days were radio silence. Nothing. Then Thursday, I got a text from Chris. Hey sis, sorry about Saturday. Something came up. Congrats on the promotion, though. Something came up. That was the entire explanation, like I'd invited him to watch paint dry instead of celebrate 6 years of my life, grinding toward this moment. Nobody else said a word. It was like the celebration had never happened. Little did I know, the universe wasn't done kicking me while I was down. In fact, it was just warming up. Monday afternoon, 9 days after my non-celebration, I'm in a budget review meeting when my phone starts buzzing. Family group chat. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won out. Then Mom's message hit. She's announcing Dad's retirement party next month, and they've booked the Grand Palm Resort for an entire weekend. Friday through Sunday, ocean view rooms, private beach access, catered dinner, live band, the works, then drops the bomb. Cost per person is $2,400. Please Venmo by Wednesday. Can't wait. I legitimately thought it was a joke at first. $2,400 per person for a retirement party. Less than 2 weeks after every single one of them no-showed my promotion dinner without so much as a text. The nerve on these people. Victoria responded immediately, saying she already sent the money and Dad deserves it. Then posted a selfie from some brunch place talking about treating herself before the big celebration because apparently she had money for mimosas and a weekend resort, but couldn't afford to show up to a free dinner I was paying for. Dad chimed in with the classic fake humble routine. You kids don't have to do this, then immediately. But it means the world to me. Can't wait to celebrate with my family. Right. The family that apparently didn't include me anymore, but did include my wallet. I'd seen that play 1,000 times. The whole performance was so rehearsed it could have been on Broadway. Dad could have won a Tony for that guilt trip. I sat there in that conference room completely zoned out while my CFO talked about Q3 projections. The guy next to me had to nudge me twice. Evelyn, you good? I nodded and pretended to take notes. My phone kept buzzing with more family members piling on. An aunt saying she already booked her flight. An uncle asking about dress code. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years, suddenly flooding the chat with excitement. Then I noticed something. My brother Chris hadn't responded. Just me and him, dead silence. I excused myself from the meeting, went to my office, closed the door, and just sat there staring at that group chat. My assistant knocked, asking if I needed anything. I told her to hold all my calls and clear my afternoon calendar. That's when something shifted in my head. The kind of clarity you get when you finally realize you've been playing a rigged game your whole life. I opened Venmo and sent my mom exactly 1 cent, 1 penny. In the note section, I wrote, "Here's my contribution. Enjoy the party." If they wanted to play games, I was about to change the rules entirely, and trust me, I was playing for keeps. Then I did something I'd thought about doing for months, but never had the guts to follow through on. I blocked every single family member's number, Mom, Dad, Victoria, even extended family who'd been part of the endless guilt trips. The only number I didn't block was Chris. Each block felt like dropping a weight I'd been carrying for years. 15 people blocked in 2 minutes. It was therapeutic. Should have charged my insurance for it. But I didn't stop there. Spent 3 hours on the phone after that meeting. Called the bank and had them remove my parents from the joint account we'd opened years ago when they needed help. Moved all my money to a different bank entirely. Here's the thing about their mortgage. When they bought the house 8 years ago, their credit was so trash they couldn't qualify. I was 25, building good credit, making decent money. Dad convinced me to go in as a co-owner on the title. Said it was temporary just to get them approved. They'd refinance me off in a year, 2 tops. That was 8 years ago. Guess what never happened? If you guessed the refinancing, congratulations. You're smarter than 25-year-old me. My name was still on that deed, which meant I legally owned a third of that house. I called the mortgage company and had them freeze any changes without my physical signature. I was also on 3 of their credit cards as an authorized user. Removed myself from all of them. The customer service rep at the bank sounded concerned. "Ma'am, are you sure you want to close this account? It's been open for 8 years. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Changed my apartment locks. Updated every password I had. Set up 2-factor authentication on everything. Built a wall around my entire financial life. My security questions went from my mother's maiden name and my first pet to random generated answers stored in a password manager. They couldn't social engineer their way into anything anymore. It felt incredible. I went home that night feeling lighter than I had in ages, made myself dinner, watched a movie, slept like a baby. For exactly 1 day, life was peaceful. Then my family realized what I'd done and all heck broke loose. I had 1 day of peaceful silence. No guilt trips, no sob stories, no demands, Just me and my new corner office, and actual work I could focus on without constant anxiety about the next financial crisis. Then Tuesday night happened. I was making dinner when someone started pounding on my door. Not knocking, full-on pounding like they were trying to break it down, like the cops were serving a warrant or something. I looked through the peephole. Victoria. Her face was red and twisted up in that expression she got right before she unleashed fury on someone. I considered just ignoring her, but the pounding got louder. My neighbor across the hall opened his door, looking concerned. I waved that everything was fine, even though it clearly wasn't. I cracked the door open with the chain lock engaged. What? 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 She looked like she was about to have an aneurysm. Steam was practically coming out of her ears. You send Mom 1 cent like some kind of jerk joke, then block everyone. What is your problem? I don't have a problem. I just stopped being your problem solver. You're being a child. This is Dad's retirement. He's worked his entire life and deserves to celebrate, and you're making it about yourself. This made me laugh. Making it about myself? Like inviting my family to celebrate the biggest achievement of my career and having literally none of you show up? She literally rolled her eyes. Oh my God, you're still hung up on that? It was just a dinner, Evelyn. Get over it. Just a dinner. Cool. Then Dad's retirement is just a party. He can get over not having me there. Oh, that's completely different. How? Because Dad actually matters. Because he's our father and he sacrificed everything for us, and the least you could do is show up and help pay for one party. She was yelling now, probably waking up my neighbors. Pretty sure Carl next door was enjoying this more than his evening TV. But no, you have to be selfish and make everything about you and your stupid feelings. I started to close the door. We're done here. She jammed her foot in the doorway. Woman was wearing heels too, which had to hurt. You think you're so much better than us, don't you? With your fancy promotion and your fancy apartment, you're still the same scrawny kid who needed Dad to bail her out. Dad hasn't bailed me out of anything since I was 19. I've bailed him out 17 times in the last 5 years. I counted. That's what family does. I'm not your ATM anymore, Vic. Figure it out. I shut the door hard enough that she had to move her foot or lose toes. She stood outside screaming for another 2 minutes before finally leaving. Heard her kick my door on her way out, which was real mature. I ate my mediocre pasta while listening to her car peel out of the parking lot like she was auditioning for Fast and Furious. My neighbor Carl knocked 20 minutes later. Retired cop, solid dude. Everything okay? Heard shouting. Yeah, family drama, nothing dangerous. He nodded slowly. Family's the worst sometimes. They know exactly which buttons to push. You need anything? I'm in 3B. Thanks, Carl. And hey, congrats on the promotion. Someone had actually read the building newsletter. A guy I barely knew was more supportive than my own blood relatives. Let that sink in. My phone started buzzing with new numbers. I knew it was them using other people's phones. Let it all go to voicemail. 3 more calls. 3 more voicemails I didn't listen to. Then text messages started rolling in from numbers I didn't recognize. Messages from my mother asking how I could do this to them. Messages saying that I was tearing the family apart over money. That my father was devastated and thinks he failed as a parent. I blocked each number as it came through. It was like playing whack-a-mole, except the moles were my relatives trying to guilt-trip me into funding their lifestyle. High score, 23 blocked numbers in one evening. Then my phone rang from Chris's number, the one I didn't block. I answered. Hey, sis, he said quietly. You okay? Yeah, you? They're losing their minds over here. Mom's crying, Dad's rage pacing. Victoria keeps screaming about what an ungrateful jerk you are, and I told them they brought this on themselves, that you've been bankrolling their lives for years, and they couldn't even show up to your dinner. There was a pause. How'd that go over? Dad told me to get out if I was going to defend you, so I'm at a Denny's right now eating terrible pancakes and texting you. I actually laughed. Sorry, man. Don't be. Needed to happen anyway. Listen, I don't know what your plan is, but whatever it is, I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. You've taken enough garbage from them. Thanks, brother. Yeah, also, heads up. Mom tried to use your info to get into the joint account. What? Yes. The bank called her and told her access was revoked. She's planning something. I don't know what, but she had that look. What look? The look she gets when she's about to do something crazy and manipulative. Remember when she showed up at your work that time? I did remember. 3 years ago, I'd said no to lending them money for a vacation. She'd shown up at my office building crying, telling everyone who'd listen that I was abandoning my family. I'd been so embarrassed I wrote her a check just to make her leave. Peak manipulation. Yeah, I remember. Just watch your back, okay? They're desperate and desperate people do stupid stuff. He wasn't wrong. 2 hours later, there was another knock on my door. This time, it was two cops because apparently, when your family can't guilt you into submission, they call in law enforcement. The cops were apologetic at least. Taller one explained they'd gotten a wellness check request. Family members claimed I was missing, not responding to anyone, might be in danger, or having a mental health crisis. I almost laughed, but managed to keep it together. Officers, I'm clearly fine. I just blocked my family because they've been financially exploiting me for years. They exchanged the look that said they'd heard this story before. The shorter cop asked if I was making this choice of my own free will, not under duress, not experiencing any psychological breaks. I confirmed all of the above. They asked me to show ID and asked some basic questions about my mental state, standard wellness check procedure. The taller one walked through my apartment with me and noticed all my work awards on the wall and a recent promotion certificate framed on my desk. Congrats on the promotion, he said. Thanks. That's actually what started this whole thing. How so? I gave them the abbreviated version. Invited family to celebrate. Nobody showed. Week later, they demanded money for another party. I cut them off. They're retaliating. Both cops nodded. They got it pretty quick after that, confirmed I was safe, and asked if I wanted to file a report about the false wellness check. I declined, but said if they kept harassing me, I'd look into a restraining order. They nodded and left. That night, I set up security cameras, one on my front door, one on the parking lot. Also installed a video doorbell. The cameras cost me $400, but sent alerts directly to my phone. If they were going to escalate, I wanted proof and footage. Maybe I'd make a documentary about it one day. Next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 texts from unknown numbers. Deleted all of them without reading. Work became my only sanctuary. First one in, last one out every day. My boss, Peter, asked if I was okay. I told him I was going through some family stuff, but it was handled. He didn't push. Then the real stuff started. Someone tried to log into my bank account. Failed. Password reset attempt. Failed. Someone tried to use my debit card information at a gas station 3 states away. Declined. Someone attempted to take out a personal loan using my social security number, flagged as potential fraud. At this point, I wasn't even surprised, just disappointed and maybe a little impressed by the sheer audacity. I drove straight to my bank. The manager, Patty, pulled up my account and her eyebrows went up. Ms. Brennan, someone's been very busy trying to access your finances today. We've blocked everything, but you need to freeze your credit immediately. Can you tell where the attempts came from? She clicked through some screens. The login attempts came from an IP address in your hometown. The loan application lists a co-applicant. She paused. Victoria Brennan, related to you? My sister. Patty's expression went from concern to anger. I'm going to recommend you file a police report for identity theft and attempted fraud. This goes beyond family drama. This is a federal crime. She printed out all the attempted transactions, highlighted the suspicious ones, gave me documentation of everything. At this point, I had more evidence than a Law and Order episode. I filed the report, gave them Victoria's information, explained the situation. The detective who took my statement didn't seem surprised. Family fraud is more common than you'd think, he said, and harder to prosecute because courts are hesitant to send family members to jail. But we'll open an investigation. Keep documenting everything, every call, every text, every attempt. If this escalates to stalking or harassment, we need a paper trail. Armed with the police report, I went home and made a decision that would change everything. I called my lawyer, Tom, a guy I'd used for contract reviews when I bought my condo. It was time to go nuclear, and I had the codes. Tom listened to everything. The years of financial exploitation, the no-show at my celebration, the $2,400 demand, the blocked numbers, the attempted fraud, all of it. Evelyn, what exactly do you want to accomplish here? I want out of every financial entanglement with my family, and I want back every dollar they owe me. That's going to be difficult to prove without documentation. I have documentation, bank statements, Venmo transactions, screenshots of text message requests, all of it going back 6 years. There was a pause. How much are we talking about? I don't know exactly. That's why I need you. I need a full accounting of every dollar I've given them. That'll take some time and cost you in billable hours. I don't care what it costs. Make it happen. Tom got to work. Meanwhile, I started my own documentation. Spent an entire weekend going through every bank statement, every Venmo transaction, every transfer, every text message where they'd asked for money. Organized it all in a massive spreadsheet with dates, amounts, and what they'd claimed the money was for. This was when it all came into focus. I wasn't their daughter or their sister. I was a walking ATM they'd trained like a dog. The pattern was obvious once I laid it all out. Mom's tears that dried up the second I opened my wallet. Victoria's guilt trips about family loyalty while she posted vacation photos from places I'd never been. Dad's disappointed silences that lasted exactly until I wrote a check. It was all there in black and white and very depressing red numbers. 6 years of this, hundreds of transactions, every single one following the same playbook. Crisis, guilt, money, silence. Rinse and repeat until your bank account looks like a crime scene. I tallied it all up. Mortgage payments, Dad's truck loan, Victoria's wedding that somehow became my financial responsibility. Mom's emergency medical bills that turned out to be for a cosmetic procedure because apparently Botox is a family emergency. Chris's state college tuition, which was the only one I didn't regret. Credit card debt I paid off for them. Car repairs, bail money, legal fees, vacation deposits, you name it. Total $375,000. I sat there staring at that number until my vision blurred. That was a house. That was retirement savings. That was my entire life savings gone, because I was too afraid to say no and too stupid to see the pattern. I called Tom immediately when I finished. I got a number. How bad? $375,000. Silence on the other end. Jesus, Evelyn. Yeah. All right. Email me everything. I'll verify it and we'll figure out our next move. He confirmed the numbers with his own audit. Called me one evening that same week. Evelyn, I've gone through everything. Your total documented losses are $375,000. That's verifiable, provable, and frankly stunning. But here's the thing. Most of these were presented as gifts, not loans. You're going to have a hard time getting a court to order repayment. What if they were coerced, I asked. If I can show a pattern of manipulation and guilt trips? That's trickier, but possible, especially with the attempted fraud now on record. It shows intent to continue exploiting you. He paused. There is another option. You're a co-owner on their mortgage, correct? Your name's on the title. Yeah, have been for 8 years. You could force a partition sale. They'd have to buy out your portion or sell the property entirely. The idea took root immediately. Beautiful. How fast can we make that happen? I can file the paperwork tomorrow, but Evelyn, this is nuclear. Once you pull this trigger, there's no going back. Your relationship with your parents is over. Our relationship ended long ago, I said. All right then, I'll draft the partition action. But I didn't stop there, because if you're going to burn a bridge, you might as well make sure it's spectacular. I remembered the retirement party demand, the $20,400 they wanted from me for a party to celebrate a man who couldn't even show up to my dinner. I had Tom set up a new email for legal correspondence and sent one to the entire family. Subject line, invoice for outstanding debts, payment required. Body, please find a detailed accounting of all financial support provided to the Brennan family from 2018 to 2024, totaling $375,000. Payment in full is expected within 90 days. Failure to pay will result in legal action, including but not limited to forced sale of property, wage garnishment, and liens on all vehicles and assets. This is not a negotiation. I attached the 47-page spreadsheet with every transaction highlighted and categorized, color-coded by family member, even included a chart showing the escalation of requests over time. Sent it at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Tom said it would hit them like a bomb. Turns out he was underselling it. Dad called first. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail that was just heavy breathing. And then, "You have lost your dang mind." Click. Victoria sent a text from a new number. "You're trying to destroy us over what? Your hurt feelings? You're such a pathetic a-hole." Mom's voicemail was different. Full performance with crying and sobbing. "Evelyn, baby, please. We can talk about this. You can't really mean this. We're your family. Please call me back." I'd heard this performance before, multiple times. It usually ended with me opening my wallet. Not this time. I didn't respond to any of them. Let them panic. Let them realize I was serious. They were going to try every manipulation tactic they knew. I wouldn't engage. The forced sale paperwork went through. My parents had 60 days to either buy me out at fair market value or put the house on the market. Tom estimated my portion was worth about $180,000. They'd need to come up with that in cash or sell. Well, they didn't have that kind of cash. Shocking, I know. They tried to refinance to buy me out. The bank denied them because their credit was destroyed and their debt-to-income ratio was absurd. Turns out spending decades living beyond your means has consequences. They tried to get a personal loan. Denied. They tried to remortgage through a predatory lender. I blocked that too, because as a co-owner, I had to sign off on any changes. Their only option was to sell, and boy, were they upset about it. The house went on the market 3 weeks later. They priced it too high out of spite, trying to avoid selling. It sat for 2 weeks with no offers because nobody wants to overpay for a 3-bedroom in the suburbs. Tom had their realtor inform them they needed to drop the price or face a court-ordered sale at auction, which would net them even less. They dropped the price, got an offer within days, below asking, but acceptable. Closing was set for 45 days out. I got updates through Tom, but I also got them through Chris, who'd been keeping me informed while staying at a friend's place. He was trying to avoid the chaos. We'd meet up at a quiet cafe every Thursday, and he'd give me the rundown. It was like watching a reality show, except sadder and with worse decision-making. "Mom's losing it," he said one afternoon, stirring his coffee. "Like genuinely losing it. She called me crying, saying you're destroying the family legacy. I reminded her the family legacy is a house they couldn't afford, and a lifestyle funded by guilt-tripping their kids." She hung up on me. "How's Dad?" "Silent. He just sits in his recliner staring at the wall. It's actually kind of scary." Victoria tried to get him to do something, file a countersuit or something, but he won't even respond to her. And Victoria, oh, she's on a rampage. Tried to start a GoFundMe claiming you'd stolen from the family and left them homeless. I reported it, and it got taken down. I couldn't help but smirk. Nice work. She's calling every relative we have, spinning some story about how you've always been jealous of them, and this is your revenge for being the less successful child. I actually laughed. I'm literally the only one with a career. Yeah, nobody's buying her version. Aunt Marie told her to get a job. Uncle Frank said he warned Dad years ago about bleeding you dry. The extended family's mostly on your side, or at least staying neutral. Chris got quiet for a second. Mom tried to get me to talk to you, said I was the only one you might listen to, wanted me to convince you to drop the lawsuit. What did you tell her? I told her she had 6 years to treat you like family instead of a bank account. That ship has sailed. That's why I loved Chris. Meanwhile, the cars started disappearing. Dad's truck showed up on Facebook Marketplace. Mom's SUV went to a used dealership. Victoria's luxury sedan that I'd helped her lease got repoed when she stopped making payments. She posted a sob story on Facebook about it, claiming financial hardship. 3 people tagged me in the comments asking if I knew about it. I didn't respond. Let them wonder. Victoria tried one more angle. She showed up at my office building. Security called me from the lobby. "Ms. Brennan, there's a Victoria Brennan here demanding to see you. Says she's your sister. Tell her I'm not available and she's not authorized to be on company property." "She's causing a scene, ma'am." "Then call the police and have her escorted off the premises." They did. I watched from my office window as 2 cops walked her to her car. She was screaming the whole way. Peter saw it too. "Friend of yours?" he asked dryly. "Sister." "Ah, family?" "Not anymore." The whole office got an email about increased security. After that, I became a bit of a legend in the building. Not the good kind, but the kind that gets whispered about in the break room. Then I found out through Chris that the house was sold. After paying off the mortgage, real estate fees, and various other debts they'd racked up, my parents netted about $40,000 from the sale. They also sold most of their furniture, jewelry, anything with value. Mom's wedding ring went to a pawn shop. Dad's collection of fishing equipment got sold in a yard sale. Everything they'd accumulated over 30 years, liquidated. They moved into a cheap 2-bedroom apartment in a rough part of town. Chris sent me pictures. Bare walls, mismatched furniture from Goodwill, tiny kitchen. He didn't say it, but the subtext was clear. This is what their life looks like without you. Victoria moved in with her boyfriend, who apparently wasn't thrilled about it based on the screaming matches Chris reported hearing through the walls when he went to pick up his stuff. Turns out nobody wants a broke, entitled house guest with a victim complex. In total, between this house sale proceeds and liquidating their possessions, they managed to scrape together $89,000 total. They sent it via wire transfer with a note from my dad. "This is all we have. Hope you're proud of yourself." I was, actually, but I also knew it wasn't even close to the $375,000 they owed me. Tom sent another letter. They had options: payment plan, wage garnishment, more assets to liquidate. But I'd made my point. Tom advised me that pursuing the full amount would take years of litigation and might not be worth the stress. Sometimes, he said, the real win is getting your life back, not getting every dollar. He was right. I'd gotten my name off their mortgage, recovered a chunk of money, and built a wall around my future. That was enough. Or so I thought, because life had one more twist waiting for me. 3 months after everything went down, I was settling into my new normal. Work was great. I was crushing my targets, getting recognition from upper management, actually enjoying my job without the constant stress of family. Peter put me up for a company leadership award. Life was good. And then, for the first time in years, love quietly found its way back in. His name was Felix. We met at the gym. I wasn't even looking for anything serious. The gym had become my sanctuary. Just me, my playlist, and the sound of weights hitting the floor. But Felix had this calm, grounded presence that cut through the noise. He wasn't flashy or trying to impress anyone. Just a kind smile, an easy laugh, and the kind of eyes that made you feel seen instead of studied. We met spotting each other at the squat rack. Classic, I know. He cracked a joke about how everyone there looked like they were auditioning for an action movie, and I laughed harder than I had in months. After that, we kept running into each other. Same hours, same machines, same quiet nods across the room. Eventually, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee after a workout. I said yes. That first coffee turned into a long conversation about everything from work and travel to how neither of us liked big family gatherings. When he asked about mine, I hesitated. I told him I was taking some space from them. He didn't pry, just nodded and said, "Sometimes peace costs distance." That line stuck with me. Over the next few weeks, Felix became a constant. We'd meet after work, grab dinner, or just walk around the park near my apartment. He wasn't the kind of person who filled silence just to avoid it. Being around him felt steady, like my nervous system could finally exhale after years of chaos. One night we were sitting on a bench, the city lights flickering in the reflection of the lake, and he said, "You know, you always talk about your work, your plans, your goals, but never what you want for yourself." I blinked. "Isn't that what those are?" He smiled softly. "Those are what you do, not who you are." It was such a simple thing to say, but it hit me hard. For so long, my entire identity had been built around fixing other people's messes, funding their happiness, surviving their chaos. I didn't even know what it meant to want something just because it was mine. Felix didn't push me to answer. He just reached out and brushed a thumb across my hand like he was telling me it was okay not to have it all figured out. For the first time in years, I felt safe. We didn't rush into anything. No grand declarations, no whirlwind romance, just quiet mornings at the cafe. Late-night phone calls that ended with laughter, gym sessions where we'd compete over who could do more push-ups. He'd tease me about my overly organized playlists. I'd tease him about always forgetting his water bottle. It was ordinary in the most extraordinary way. Months passed. The court case wrapped quietly. The investigation into Victoria's attempted fraud stalled out. Apparently, she'd lawyered up and blamed a misunderstanding. I didn't care anymore. The noise was gone. My parents had stopped trying to contact me, and Victoria's social media had gone private. Chris had moved out west for grad school, and we still talked every week. My world had finally gone still. One Sunday morning, Felix invited me to meet his sister and her kids for brunch. I was nervous. Meeting anyone's family had become complicated for me. But his sister was kind, the kind of woman who made you feel like you'd known her forever. Her kids were wild in the best way. Sticky hands, loud giggles, syrup everywhere. At one point, Felix caught me watching them and said quietly, "You look like you missed something." I shook my head. "No, I think I'm just realizing what it's supposed to look like." He smiled, squeezing my hand under the table. Maybe that's the start of something better. That afternoon, we walked back to my place, slow, content, sunlight stretching long across the street. He stopped outside my door, that familiar, gentle look in his eyes. "You've done a lot of hard things, Evelyn," he said. "You should be proud." I nodded, swallowing a lump in my throat. "I am. For the first time, I think I really am." He leaned down, kissed me softly, and for a moment, everything else, the fights, the manipulation, the years of being taken for granted, Felt like it had happened in another lifetime. I'd spent years surviving my family's chaos. But here, in the quiet, with Felix's hand resting on mine, I realized I was finally living. 6 months later, I was sitting on my balcony with a mug of coffee, the morning air warm and soft. My phone buzzed. A text from Chris. Hey, I just wanted you to know Dad's been working again. Night shifts at the warehouse. Mom's cleaning houses part-time. They're different. Not good, not bad. Just quieter. Thought you'd want to know. I typed back. Thanks, I hope they find peace. He sent a heart emoji, nothing else, and that was enough. Felix stepped out behind me, wrapping his arms around my shoulders. Work today? Not till noon. Good, then you're coming with me. Where? He grinned. It's a surprise, and no, it's not the gym. I laughed, setting my mug down. Lead the way. We ended up at a quiet hiking trail about an hour outside the city. The air smelled like pine and wet earth. The trail wound upward, the sunlight breaking through in golden stripes. Near the top, there was a lookout point that stretched across miles of forest and sky. Felix stood beside me, wind brushing through his hair. You know, he said, you never told me what you did with all that money. What money? I asked, smiling. The money you got back from the house, from them. I shrugged. I didn't do anything with it. It's still sitting there. He nodded. Good. Don't spend it to fill old spaces. Wait for something that builds new ones. I looked at him then, the light catching in his eyes, steady and kind. You always talk like you're quoting some philosophy book. Maybe I am, he said, smiling. Or maybe I'm just saying I like who you're becoming. I laughed softly, leaning into him. The world stretched wide and bright before us, full of quiet possibilities. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like someone's daughter, someone's safety net, someone's fixer. I was just Evelyn, standing on a mountain with the man who reminded me that peace isn't something you find, it's something you choose. And I was finally choosing it.